Welcome to another prospect interview here on the No Ceilings NBA YouTube channel and podcast feed. I am Maxwell Baumbach, and today I'm joined by a player I just covered during the No Stone Unturned series, Ndewedo Newbury from San Francisco. He goes by Chips, is his nickname within the program, I've been told. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited to dig into your game and your story. You're a fascinating player, and your background is equally interesting, I think. But the thing I always like to kind of lead off with is, how would you describe your game to someone who'd never seen you play before?
Okay, I'd say I'm a junkyard dog, kind of defensive catalyst. I can stretch out to the perimeter, hit a couple of threes. Mainly, I like to play within the offense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I'm a big fan of your game as well. Really was impressed with how you played down the stretch and your development over the past couple of years. You are listed at 6'7", 238. So definitely one of those big physical guys, my type of player. Those are the kind of guys I tend to gravitate towards on the wing. But let's go back to the very beginning. So based on the research I was able to do, it looks like you grew up in the UK. Where basketball is not super popular. I went on a vacation there when I was like in high school, and people were like, "Do you play any sports?" I was like, "Yeah, basketball," and everyone was like, "Who cares?" Like, no, it didn't seem like it was that popular over there then. So how did you get into basketball in a country where it's not as popular of a sport, but it is emerging and growing?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. It
Really?
was just
Yeah.
very much. As I got older, I was one of the taller kids, and they would actually say you should get into basketball, and I didn't know what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Everything over there is soccer or football. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did you play any of those other sports? Like, was it something where it's like, man, I'm really more interested in like football or anything else? Or
Yeah. I was super into football and table tennis, and I danced a little bit on the side. But
awesome, that's cool.
pretty much it. Yeah.
What kind of dance did you do?
Hip hop.
Awesome, great,
Hop and locking. Yeah, some
nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it seemed like basketball took off for you pretty quickly, though, because it seems like you kind of started playing, and then all of a sudden, like, you're invited to the Den Camp, which is like a camp for the top prospects within the country. So, like, when did you start playing, and then like how quickly did you realize, like, oh, this might be like a path I go down in life and not just like a hobby?
I started playing when I was around 14, 15. I'm not too sure about the details, but started getting to it. I just go to the park every day after school, and eventually I was super lucky. I had like one of the best national under 18 teams was right next door, basically in my neighborhood. And they picked me up, took me under their wing, and that's when I really started playing against guys who were just way better than me. And obviously in that environment, you thrive. And so, yeah, I just played with them on the 16s, on the 18s. And then I got enough clout to get into Den Camp. And then from then on, I went out to Pennsylvania, actually, to play in the hoop group.
Okay.
If you've heard of that. And then, yeah, that's when I got really noticed.
For sure. Yeah. So that was going to be kind of my next question, is you kind of build this reputation for yourself overseas. And then you kind of get onto that US radar. What was that process like, being, still a kid, really? And all of a sudden it's like, I might be moving overseas and playing basketball in America. How did you kind of compartmentalize and deal with all that happening so quickly?
A lot of it was in part with my mother's decision. She was kind of skeptical when I was getting into the basketball scene, and because she didn't really have too much of any ideas about it in London. And then she was very education focused.
Sure.
So when I let her know that I could do education and basketball on the side, but I'd have to travel a million miles away. She was pretty excited about it, and so
sure.
Yeah.
So what were kind of your offers like at that point, and what led you to San Francisco in particular?
It's quite a funny story, actually. I was committed to Princeton
Okay.
University
Mm-hmm.
for a little bit, but because COVID, it was right before
That's
COVID happened.
right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I never really took my exams. Princeton's
Mm-hmm.
Ivy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
basically, they can't really accept a player that doesn't have any grades.
Mm-hmm.
So at the time, I was in Connecticut
Mm-hmm.
at a school called Loomis Chaffee.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
One of the coaches there knew someone at USF called Kevin Hovedy, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And and then he was like, we have this kid come through. Basically, here I am. I went to USF.
Awesome. That's really cool. And what was like? Obviously, like you're at Miss Chafee. What was your acclimation process like to the States? And again, like how did you sort of deal with that just cultural adjustment as far as being in a new country at such a young age?
I describe myself as a pretty open guy. So it wasn't a lot to take in. It was just basically similar like school situation. So just basically adjusting to the culture was quite difficult, and
Mm-hmm.
I kind of developed an American accent just so people would stop picking on me. For, so yeah.
That's great. Yeah, it's quite different. And you've been at San Francisco for all 4 years, which is something that we don't see as often anymore. The first thing I want to ask you before we get into that is what was the origin of the Chips nickname?
Um, uh, Freshman year, player above me called Zane Meeks.
Mm-hmm.
I was my roommate. Took me out for dinner, and I
Oh, okay.
I called,
See where that's going. Yeah.
yeah, chips, fries, and then from then on, he called me Chips. So,
So you've had a really steady development during your time at San Francisco. So your freshman season, you really didn't play much at all. You played 23 minutes a game. Then your sophomore year, or you played 23 minutes total as a freshman, rather. Then 23 minutes per game as a sophomore. You have a really nice kind of breakout stretch around conference tournament time. Junior year, you're an everyday guy. You're starting at a very hefty majority of the time. And again, you have another just take a step up during that back half of the schedule. What do you attribute that sort of progressive growth and development to within the program?
just trusting the process. To be honest, a lot of it was freshman year was the March Madness team.
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn from a lot of senior guys. Shout out my guy Yaman Masolski, and shout out Jamari Bouye, Patrick Tape. Those guys were killers.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that they definitely showed me what it really took to get to the next level. And then obviously, from then on, I have to trust the process, stay in the gym, extra reps, all that stuff.
So when you were on that March Madness team, like you mentioned, that team with Jamari Bouye on it, it's a team that, I scouted a decent amount at the time, obviously with him being on the team. And now, he's a guy who's appeared in NBA games and things like that. How was sort of playing through that as a freshman, where it's like, you obviously know, like they brought you into the program because they believe in you, but right now, the focus is kind of on these older players, who've earned their spots and are really good. How did you sort of deal with that on the day to day and get through that time?
I mean, I took it as a challenge. It was just, obviously I've never been exposed to this level of competition before and the physicality. And so really it was just, I was a pretty stubborn player too, but really it was just coming in every day and just, really trying to see where I can make an impact. And then from then on, doing as best as I can, really.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
for sure. And then this past season, huge jump, especially down the stretch. Was there anything that changed for you at the midseason point, or was it just continuing to acclimate, continuing to get more comfortable, building up that chemistry with your teammates? Because you had a really, really strong closing stretch to this past season. Obviously, like throughout the year, your role was bigger this year than it was last year. But I believe it was over the last in conference play, 11.3 points per game, 55.2% from the field, 40.7% from three, and 81.8% from the free throw line. Like that was just like a noticeable progression during conference play. Was there anything in particular that you attribute that to?
No, it was just. Oh, sorry, you cut
You're
off
good.
for a second.
Yep.
No, it was just. Yeah, it was just paying attention to film, scout, really knowing just experience. Really, I just got more experience points.
For sure. Hey, whatever works. It was interesting that you mentioned the things that you struggled with coming over here, and one of the things you mentioned was the physicality. That's actually part of your game I like a lot. Is just from like watching these games from always looking at it through the NBA lens. Like you're big, you're strong. Can you just talk about how that benefits you on the court throughout the game and the different ways that you can kind of use your body to make an impact?
So defensively, I want to be able to guard 1 through 5. I can guard 1 through 5, sorry. And obviously, being able to expose mismatches on the offensive end and, attack through drives and, get into the lane. That's a lot of stuff that being strong, physical, grabbing rebounds offensively and defensively too, very important. And that contribute to my game because of my physical assets.
For sure. Yeah. And I think part of what your appeal to me was in particular was having that frame, but also having the requisite skill. You really shot the ball well this year, which I thought was interesting. Like just digging back through the numbers, you took 7 threes per 100 possessions, which is a really solid amount for a forward prospect. And you made, 40% of them last year. Prior seasons, you were not really a shooter at all. How did you develop that element of your game? Because it's really great to see anytime a guy your size is shooting it well. But particularly just given that like jump, I love seeing guys who progress year over year and are making those kind of improvements. What was that process like for you with the shot in particular?
So coming into college, I don't really shoot that much at all, but seeing how Todd Golden and Christopher Gullison, like the way they like to coach, and they were very 3-point dominant kind of team. And so I thought to myself, if I really want to make an impact here, I'm going to have to get a jump shot. And so that's what I did. I just spent a lot of time mainly just practicing my craft.
And I am big on the like inside out scores. The guys where like I think in the NBA we're seeing fewer and fewer guys that are pure spot up shooters. Like the game just requires more players now. One thing I specifically seek out when I'm looking for players that I want to put on my radar are guys that are really efficient inside the arc and efficient outside of it. You made 63.2% of your twos last season as well. So you're finishing around the basket, your power, ability to kind of play through contact inside was really good as well. Does that part of the game come more naturally to you, or were there different things that you sort of added to your game to be more effective inside as well?
Well, I mean, that's basically all I really did before coming to college. I was just an inside scorer. So I guess it was something I was developed naturally and just had to come along as time progressed. So yeah.
But I would give you credit because I think a lot of the times the guys that are sort of more post-oriented growing up just kind of score that same way in college, right? I thought you did a really nice job like attacking closeouts and driving off of spot ups and things like that. How long did it take you to sort of feel comfortable with like that in-between element of the game of like I'm pump faking and then I'm driving and things like that? Was that something that sort of came along in the last year as well? Or was that something that you felt comfortable with before you were shooting? When did that sort of become more a part of your game?
I've always had the pump fake. The pump fake was always there. Yeah. I don't know why people would bite on it because I couldn't really shoot before. But, when one went in, and then it was free game. So that was definitely something that I mean, actually, getting downhill and actually making plays from there was definitely something I had to develop in college. But yeah, I've always wanted to drive, take someone on in the perimeter. That's always what I wanted to expand my game upon. Seeing all these NBA guys, they're all crafty at the perimeter and then obviously finish around the rim. So,
yeah, it's shown that you're really coming along in that respect. I thought another area of just really drastic improvement too was your recognition of defensive coverages and your passing. You went from 1 assist to 1.9 turnovers to 1.7 assists, 1.7 turnovers. So you went from like really underwater assist to turnover wise to being even, which for a guy your size is good. What was that area of development like? And obviously you're a guy who was like later to starting playing basketball. So do you attribute that more to just like experience, getting caught up, or was that more of just acclimating to the speed of the college game as far as being able to find those passes and hit them more reliably?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'd say both.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously over here, overseas, guys are way bigger, way stronger, way quicker to the ball. So knowing when to pass and finding those gaps are definitely something I had to learn when I was older in my college experience.
For sure. And then defensively, I love your game. You kind of mentioned the defense off the bat is something that you take a lot of pride in. What is the thing that you feel like you do best on the defensive end? Like if, again, somebody had never seen you before and they're saying, okay, what's the sell with this guy defensively? Like what's the best thing you do on defense, or your favorite thing to do on the floor defensively?
I like to take on-ball challenges. So
Mm-hmm.
the best guy I like to guard. Obviously, I can't really do it all the time, and the best player is a guard or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I feel like my off-ball defense has gone way better as the season's come along. Just knowing what kind of coverages are going on and where I have to be on the court at all times.
Yeah, that was another thing where I was in the aftermath of the article finding out that you started playing later. Impressed me further. Like I feel like you do a really good job of helping out around the rim defensively. You had a 5.2 block rate, averaged over a block a game last year. Was that again just sort of an adjustment to the speed and college game thing, or is that film? Like how have you developed in that sense, or again is it something that's sort of always been a part of your game, that ability to help off the ball and make plays?
It's definitely a lot of film. Beforehand, I remember. At least when I first started playing, I didn't know when I should be able to get blocks in and stuff. And then eventually, as I got more experience points and knowing, this big guy is definitely going to try and score here, and here. And so I know where I need to be when I need to. If one of my guys get blown by, I know where I have to. Yeah.
For sure. Well, it's been really cool to kind of see your development across the board. And I think that's part of what makes you such an exciting player coming into this year, is that there has been this consistent development across the board where it's like, man, this guy's finishing better. He's shooting better. He's passing better. He's defending better. It's been really cool to watch your progression. When we go and we watch your games this year, what do you think are going to be some of the things, or you can even throw out a couple of things if you like, where you're going to say, people are going to say, wow, he really took a step forward in this respect?
So I'm definitely, as a stat say, a good shooter. I would say now that I'm trying to get into that zone of being a driller. Also, just mainly versatility as a player as a whole. I've worked on my ball handling a lot. I've worked on finishing around the rim quite often. So those two aspects, and obviously basketball IQ comes with just experience and watching a lot more basketball. So.
And what is your film process like? Do you like to watch a lot of yourself and kind of learn from mistakes or things that you see going well on the court? Or do you just like to watch basketball in general? Like what's sort of your process like as far as that goes?
So definitely preseason, I watch a lot of basketball of our practices that are going on right now. I have been watching a lot of college basketball recently. I have a couple of, favorite college basketball players now. And so, just pretty much
getting in whatever you can. Yeah, for sure. And if people want to follow along on your journey and kind of see what's next for you, where can they find you on social media?
Only have Instagram.
All good.
Ndewedo Newbury.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time. Love your game and really excited to see where it goes next season. So make sure you're following Ndewedo on Instagram. Make sure you're watching the San Francisco Dons this upcoming season. It's a really exciting team. We're excited to follow them here over at No Ceilings. So again, thank you to everyone for joining us. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share the show so that everyone else can listen. Have a great day. We'll see you guys soon.